What's up, guys? I'm here with Dr. Shahana Abed from Australia. I get the honor to speak to incredible entrepreneurs, incredible dentists and doctors and leaders from around the world. And she has taken the time out of her morning on Friday to speak with us today. So thank you so much, Dr. Abed. I just wanted to, just ask you, did you always want to do dentistry?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Jarab. Thank you for having me. I think my answer to that question would be no. To be honest, it really wasn't. I grew up in South Africa, so I'm South African, and I think when we were young, there were very limited options in what we could do. If you were smart, there were 3 options, and if you were not so book smart, there were another 3 options, and there wasn't so much available to you like there is today. So I decided, okay, well, my options were between medicine and dentistry. It was very callous of me the way I chose at the time, medicine and dentistry, and I'll pick between the 2, and dentistry seemed like a better career for someone who wanted to have kids and have a family. So that's how I chose dentistry, where it was a really good profession, but not as demanding hospital-wise, night work-wise, etc. as medicine, and that's how I chose dentistry. I didn't know too much about it.
So how did your move come from South Africa to Australia? Like, did this happen later on in your life? Was this kind of a career choice?
No, that was very organic. It wasn't super planned at all. I met my husband at university. We were both at medical school together. He was medic, I was dental, but we met there. And on graduation, we decided to go to the UK for a 2-year working holiday. That's what we were going to do. And that was 22 years ago. That 2-year working holiday turned into 22 years abroad. We just never went home.
Add or subtract 20 years, right? No problem.
Exact. So it just sort of happened that way. We loved it there. We extended our stay another 2 years, ended up having our first child there.
And how did are you still acclimating to that Australia is home thing? Because I know for immigrants, like my mom came here when I was like 9 years old, and so sometimes there's some of that classical cultural stuff that's still very relevant, and we want to kind of hold on to that. So how do you kind of contextualize that and try to keep it raw, rugged, and I guess organic?
I think for any migrant, you will always feel like a migrant. That's my personal opinion. You always have that neither here nor there feeling. There's parts about you that wouldn't leave you. I am at home here. Australia is now my home. That's true. But South Africa is where my people are. I feel like people won't ever get me like they get me. It just won't happen, no matter what. So, but you acclimate. My children are very Australian. They consider themselves Australian. If we go back to South Africa, I say, "Oh, we're going home," and they're like, "No, home's here. We're going to South Africa."
So it's really fascinating to me when people of your status and caliber and execution say that you're still taking courses, right? On things that are somewhat basic, right? Just like communication, like things that are like cultural understanding. So what is your philosophy on learning in life? Like in terms of how do you gauge whether or not you're incrementally improving in some way?
I think that I and everyone should learn every single day until we die. If I don't spend a day learning something new, I feel odd. There's so much to learn. You constantly have to grow. Otherwise, what's the point? There's so much to learn.
So there's this deep spiritual understanding, right? We're like a drop in the ocean. I wanted to talk to you about the Aurora Academy that you have created, this tremendous program. Do you want to just give a little lowdown for our audience if they're interested in getting incredible mentorship from someone in your area?
So Aurora Academy was born out of my own journey. It started, I was an overseas graduate. I graduated in South Africa, and in order to practice dentistry in Australia, I needed to do equivalency exams. But having 3 children under the age of 5 as well, and no family support, and a husband who worked full-time in a very, very demanding field, it was very difficult to get the kind of guidance that I needed, because there is none for this exam, and it was massive. It's a massive exam, and it was traumatic, if there's a word that I could use, to get myself registered registered to practice as a dentist in Australia with no family support to help with kids, no, being a migrant, getting accustomed to all of that at the same time. It was very difficult. It was very difficult. And I got through it, praise God, I did, and it was really hard. And I just felt like I wish I'd had access to certain materials and that I didn't need to travel to major cities, to Sydney, Melbourne, because I'm in Brisbane, and there was nothing available here. I'd need to leave my husband and kids for weeks at a time and go to another city, and it was very difficult. And I felt, I wish I'd had these things. And, like they say, if you don't find the book that you want to read, write it. If you don't find the course you want to do, create it. So I did that. It was very organic. I had a few friends tell me, oh, you passed, and this exam is notoriously difficult. So it has a very low pass rate because, there's too many dentists already in the country. So it is very, very difficult to get through.
What are your thoughts on how education could maybe teach, these professionals to communicate better and to connect deeper with themselves? Do you think it's even feasible in the systems that have been established or are established, or is it like the paradigm shift has to be towards individual mentorship?
This is a topic that, because I do teach at Australian University as well, so this is something that I have been advocating for many, many years, where this sort of thing is introduced into our actual curriculum and, it gets accredited by our accreditation councils and is included in what we teach at university level, so that you don't have to be then spending the same amount in CPD when you finish, which is what everyone's doing.
What does CPD stand for?
Continuing professional development. It's the equivalent of your CE, I guess.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So, just doing course after course, which is necessary, obviously, for a lot of things to expand your scope and to keep up and all the rest of it. But I think that the communication side, the spiritual side, connecting with patients. So the main thing that I like to emphasize on is building a connection. If there's no connection, there's no point in treating the patient, because you can have the best technical skills out there, and technical skills are necessary, don't get me wrong. It's great to have good technical skills, but if you have no connection with the patient, they don't care if you've done a really good above average preparation or you've done an excellent, microscopically brilliant. They don't care. If you fix their problem, they're happy. But if you have a connection with them, they're content and they come back and you contribute to their quality of life. And this is not taught at university. It's just not taught. The importance and the weight of this message is completely diminished at university level, in my opinion.
In terms of just going back to the village aspect that you were talking about, the communal aspect, the connection aspect, you're a business owner when it comes down to it, right? Like you are someone that understands finances, you are someone that understands value, you are someone that understands how to motivate people and delegate and do all of these crazy things. And it really, if you don't have that connection with the person that you are working with, right, for them to even buy into your vision, how could you possibly establish something that's sustainable? So take a step back. And if you could, what is your philosophy on leading? Because the thing that I thought to myself in school was, gosh, we're some of the most educated people on the planet. Literally, we've spent years and years learning technical skills, learning hopefully how to communicate. But so few of us actually graduate believing that we have a responsibility to be leaders. So it's this kind of like innate thing. What's your philosophy on trying to increase that in your life or utilize that to make whatever impact you want?
I think, and this is a philosophy that I tell everyone I come into contact with, is that you empower the people you lead to be better than you in all ways. That's my goal. Anyone that I deal with in my day, whether it's my staff in clinic, whether it's the students I mentor, whether it's my children, the goal is always the same. How do I empower them to be better than me and to not need me anymore?
So essentially, true humility to know that we are replaceable, right? In this ocean of souls. Absolutely replaceable within a second.
I think for me that comes in when you understand that no growth happens in a comfort zone, none. So it depends on what comfort zone is like to you and where you need your growth. But we've done this for our children since they were little, is because it's always you caught up between that. You want to provide them with everything and give them everything and make them make life easy for them and give them everything you didn't have. But then their dad always says, but if they don't have the same struggles that I had. How will they have the same hunger? They won't get anywhere, you know? So we have to simulate these challenges, like you say, the chaos. We have to simulate chaos so that they learn resilience without actually throwing them to the wolves genuinely, you know? And it's all about simulating conditions for yourself that build resilience. So for you as an adult dentist who, let's say that, you know, you're in a comfort zone, things are coming relatively easy, there's no chaos at the moment, create chaos. So what is it that you don't think you're able to do? For me personally, it was physical achievement. So I've always been academically inclined. Studying academic achievements have come, I won't say easily to me, but that's where my strength lies. I'm not a big sports person. That's not what I do. I'm not able. But with my health, I needed to do something serious about my health. So I decided to push myself physically because that's always been scary to me, you know, running and going to the gym. So I started training in powerlifting, and I did a deadlift competition, which, oh my God, like anyone who knows me was like, what? What? You know? So it was just creating that, pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. And believe me, going to the gym for me and being able to deadlift, which might seem like a small amount, but 80 kilo and 100 kilo deadlifts for someone like me who couldn't pick a bar off the ground. It took a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of, you know, discipline, getting there to the gym, training, having the trainer, making sure I'm eating right, making sure I'm, you know, all these things. I grew from that. It was creating a chaos for myself that I would ordinarily not have done. And now suddenly, you know, physical achievements are not that, oh my God, something someone else does. I'm open to doing all sorts of challenges now, you know. It's good to create chaos for yourself so you can keep growing when life, fortunately, you know, touch wood, is not throwing chaos at you. Create your own chaos, keep growing.
And so that necessarily, right, there's someone viewing this now thinking, what do I have to give up in order to have chaos in my life? So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about this, because I don't think people realize that when you're pursuing something like, for instance, that physical goal you're talking about, or perhaps a change in country or a change in circumstance, the context, the necessary augmentations you have to make in your social life, the necessary augmentations you have to make in your calendar. So, and those are two of probably 100 things you have to change. How do you deal with that kind of burning of that part of yourself, or like or just knowing that there's some things that you just have to let go, you know, in order to, I guess, get to that person or that different way of looking at life?
Yeah, well, you have to have a really good idea of what your priorities are, I suppose, because, you know, everyone wants to do 1,000 things, but never really achieving anything, because you put too much into too many places, and you put all of this effort into too many places, nothing grows. I think that would be the biggest lesson that I learned, is that it's not only about, you know, spending 24 hours a day on that hamster wheel. It's spending it in the right way. You have to spend your energy in the right way to start building things. So, you know, a bit of planning is always important. Without proper planning, this is a big lesson that I teach actively with students, is proper planning. So, you know, this applies to treatment planning, but it applies to life planning as well, and goal setting. Planning is everything, because when you plan and you have things written down and you see things starting to take shape, and then it's like vision boarding, and you can see, okay, well, there's no room for all of this. So a couple of things have to go. And which are those things? Because, you know, some things will only be learned, obviously, as you go, and you realize, okay, no, I'm not enjoying that as much as I thought I did, and feel free to pivot away from that. And that's another thing. You don't have to stick with something that you started with. Know when it's time to leave. Know when there was no return on investment on time spent or money spent. It doesn't have to be financial investment. You know, spiritual, emotional, passion investment, return on investment. If you're not getting it, why stick with it? Be okay with quitting. That's the only time it's good to be a quitter. It's okay to pivot a little bit if it's not what it was, what you intended it to be. And
but you got to start somewhere.
You have to start
You have to start something in order to quit it.
Exactly. You have to start. Just get up and do things. Just do that thing. Don't constantly be thinking, I want to do this, I want to do that. I had someone tell me recently, oh, you know what, you had the family, you had the kids, you're so lucky you have a career as well. I was like, excuse me, there was no luck here. You're looking at 10 years of being a stay-at-home mom with 3 children under the age of 5, all of them within 5 years, when they slept at 7 o'clock at night, and then spending time, with my husband, cleaning up my house, planning for the next day. 10 o'clock when the house was dark, I would study till 2 a.m. because that's the only time I had. It's the only time I had. So there was no luck. The harder you work, the luckier you get. There was no luck. Keeping my hands in academically and remaining, within my profession, and I wasn't able to actively do it. That, for me, was 10 years of studying online and pursuing module after module after module of other things to keep my brain busy, because I needed that. There's no luck there. It's only hard work. You see people and the success that they might be having, and you think, oh, if only it happens to other people, not to me. No, you don't see the 20 years leading up to that person did not rest. That person didn't go to the beach. That person didn't watch movies. They didn't binge watch Turkish dramas on Netflix because they didn't have the time for that, and there's no luck involved. People are successful after the hard work, and the success is all you see. You have to be prepared to put in the work, and that's what you do, which is why so many years after apparently not doing anything, people are like, oh my God, you've done this and you've done that and you've done that. And I'm like, well, the 15 years that you weren't looking at me, I was busy doing these things quietly every single day.
Until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Until 2 o'clock.
Most people would be sleeping or complaining about being tired. Yeah.
Exactly. So you have to be prepared to make the sacrifices. You really do, because it's very seldom that it is, the success quick without work thing and the passive income. Passive income only exists after really, really, really active hard work, in my opinion.
So it doesn't exist?
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, passive income is nonsense.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. And portraying it like it is doing harm to young people, because they're losing the desire to work in pursuit of this easy passive income thing that's, in my opinion, is smoke and lights.
So obviously you work your absolute butt off, right, in life. And Steve Harvey has this quote. He says, rich people don't sleep. He said rich people don't sleep. And I know, for a long time I was like, nah, sleep's like super important. Now I realize, and going back to Jim Rohn, I don't know if you've seen any of these guys, but yeah. Jim Rohn said, find really good reasons to stay up late and wake up early.
Beautiful.
And so I wanted to ask you that, we're both, I've grown up Muslim. And there's the concept of the evil eye, whatever.
Yeah.
When you're doing big things, there's someone looking at you, and the universe will somehow affect you. I think it's complete bullshit. But in general, how do you think about money? Because you're clearly excellent in a lot of ways in life, but you also consistently spend money to build yourself. What is your philosophy of this concept that humans have created? How do you use this thing? What's the point of it?
I think that money makes things easier, for sure. I think that if your ultimate goal is money, you will never truly be successful, in my opinion. If money is the goal, money is one of the good outcomes of what we do, obviously, because, anyone who tells you, oh, money doesn't matter at all, well, they're lying. Obviously it matters, but it can't be the only thing, because in the pursuit is where the joy is. I always say the joy comes from the pursuit. So you have to detach from the outcome. And if money is the outcome, then there's no real passion involved. There's nothing left. I feel like it disappears. Money is good in that this is my kid's dad has told me, someday, Shahana, we will see a little bit of profit from what you do, because every single thing that I make at that, he's like, some of us need to actually pay the bills, and others are able to use their money in ways that he can't even identify. It's just gone the next day, because I use all of it to reinvest in more growth.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abed. I do want to ask you one other question, because I'm always curious about sustainability. I wanted to be an ecologist when I was coming out of school. I love the idea of things working together. How do you think about making Aurora sustainable, right? Like how have you thought about what is your strategy on making that legacy last?
Yeah, so Aurora, my goal has been to automate Aurora. So I say there's no such thing as passive income, but I've aimed to make Aurora as passive as possible, only in the fact that I need to take myself out of the equation at some point. It can't depend on me for it to last, like you say. So I train people, of course, all the time, but I record my courses. They're available on the platform. It's Aurora on Demand, as I call it. And it takes me out of the equation more and more and more. So the process is automated. Everything that they would normally get from me live on Zoom or whatever, I now record and automate. So not only do you not have to travel for the courses, but you don't have to sign on at a certain time either. It's on demand. You go and you do it when you want. If you would like to have live access to me once a week, I am available online. Anyone can hop on, ask as many questions as you want. I'm yours. So there is the support, and I'll make sure that there's always support in the people that I train. There's always support. But ultimately, Aurora functions now. The business model, should I say, is for it to function without me. There's no time for money exchange there. I give my time 24 hours a day creating the content that needs to be put up there, but then it's there and you can access it whenever you want, and you have access to it as long as you want. And it takes me out of that live one-on-one equation because I have things to do as well,
But you've dumped your soul into this, so anyone can watch it for generations, right? I think that's missed. I think that's missed by the young people these days. They're consuming this content, but not realizing the repository of human knowledge that's available to them. So again, thank you so much for spending the time to talk to me. It is an honor to connect to a soul of your caliber.